twin deck. Justin Yu is on a green-white aggro deck.
Yeah, this is often referred to as hate bears, so to speak, because of the number of creatures that he has that are very disruptive to people's game plans. But this build in particular is a little bit less focused on the hate and more focused on getting a little bit of value with things like Vengevine and Fauna Shaman. What's really interesting is the use of exactly 3 Squadron Hawks, a number that you don't see too often.
Yeah, so Chris Pikula is on the play here. He's going to go ahead and start on Steam Vents into Serum Visions. As you see there, setting up a combo. He has a Dispel in hand, kind of shuffling between lands. Yeah, so you talked about Squadron Hawk. That's a card I really haven't seen in Modern at all. I know that way back when it was in like the Cawblade era of Standard, we saw there were some Squadron Hawk Vengevine decks that existed, trying to like overhawk and put Vengevines in the graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, like in this case, one of the plays that Yu is capable of is the Squadron Hawk, then have to discard, a Vengevine. It's a little surprising playing exactly 3 Vengevines and 3 Squadron Hawks, but I think that a lot of people have been talking about recently the trend towards 3 Electromancers in Storm decks or 3 Birthing Pods in Birthing Pod decks. Apparently 3 Squadron Hawks and 3 Vengevines in the Squadron Hawk Vengevine deck is the latest.
Everything's a 3. All right, Chris with a second land untapped, leaving open mana. Justin will make his first play of the game, and that is Lotus Cobra. And Chris will end step peek. He'll get to see what he's playing around.
Yeah, he wants to know, like, what is this basic Plains Treetop Village Lotus Cobra deck?
All right, we see Tectonic Edge, Sajiri Step, Forest, another Lotus Cobra, a Knight of the Reliquary. Sajiri Step, it's a 1-of for Knight. It's probably not something he kind of wishes wasn't in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, often, you don't want to draw that one, but it's not going to be the worst because this isn't a matchup where it's particularly relevant anyway, and so at least he can play it and get it out of the way. But he really needs more threats that actually, Oh, it looks like Fauna Shaman and Knight of the Reliquary are the primary threats in his hand, which means that Pikula, who I believe has 2 Lightning Bolts, is going to have to decide
what to bolt.
So he does bolt the Lotus Cobra, but now that leaves him with just 1 bolt to deal with both Fauna Shaman and Knight of the Reliquary.
So the bolt on Lotus Cobra seems like it's just to slow down Justin here. Like when I look at his creatures, it looks like he has a lot of utility, but it's not a fast start, or at least doesn't appear to be a fast kill.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Pikula knows he can't just sit around forever, but he's got several turns to hang out.
Yeah, so we see another land there. He has lands 4 and 5. He does have a Dispel in hand that will probably not do too much for him.
Now, at this point, Justin Yu's got to be imagining that Pikula is playing Twin. And the key is the land, the Sulphur Falls. I mean, if somebody just has Steam Vents, Island, Scalding Tarn, there's many things they could be doing with Bolt. But once they've played Sulphur Falls, and obviously the Peak is even more in that path.
Right, Knight of the Reliquary made by Justin. Could he still be on maybe Storm at this point, or does Sulphur Falls?
Sulphur Falls is kind of a non-starter for Storm. It's possible, I guess, but like once he's, now I don't know how much Justin Yu knows who Pikula is, but if Pikula, Pikula is well known to be from New York, and nobody in New York would be allowed to play Storm, like so divergent from the path that Finkel has laid down.
All right, well, it's going to be a remand for that Knight of the Reliquary, so Chris gets to start turn 4 with the board still clear.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like he has Pestermite already. If he can just find a Kiki-Jiki or a Splinter Twin, that's the game. Yu has 3 Path to Exiles in his deck that could allow him to interact, but beyond that, he has no answers to the combo in his main deck.
You talked about Hate Bears. So
Kasali Pride Mage. Sorry, he does have Kasali Pride Mage or Gaddock Teague.
Yeah, so his Hate Bears are what? They're Thalia, Aven Mind Sensor, Gaddock Teague. So Teague is like the choice Hate Bear in this matchup then?
Well, Teague's all right. The problem with Teague is you can still Kiki-Jiki through him, and Pikula has tons of Lightning Bolts and Electrolyzes. I think the best thing Justin can really do is present a really fast clock, because Pikula is going to have too many ways to fight through disruption for how little disruption Justin Yu has. Path to Exile is much more likely to be good on the average, but Pikula, of course, has Dispel already in his hand. Yeah,
so during upkeep there, we saw Pestermite tapping down that Plains from Justin. For the draw step, Justin did draw Path to Exile, but he doesn't have the white mana, can't play it this turn. And as you said, the Dispel is waiting in Pikula's hand for when he goes for it. Yeah, the best thing you could do is just put as much pressure on Pikula as possible, give him as few turns as possible to actually draw that the other half of the combo. All right, so Lotus Cobra is the play, then Tectonic Edge, making a mana off Lotus Cobra.
Are we going to see a Path to Exile here, do you think?
Yeah, well, we could see a Path, or he could make a Fauna Shaman. I guess it depends how much pressure he thinks he's under. He's going to actually, it looks like he's going to use the mana to Tech Edge Pikula.
Wild.
Well, that'll keep him off Kiki Jiki mana, right?
It does slow him down a little bit. So in this spot, it looks like Yu is just trying to limit Pikula's mana a little bit.
Yeah, he takes him off that untapped Steam Vents, passes the turn. But Pikula, I know he has at least a Tech Edge of his own waiting in hand, as we see there. It's possible
The
if
beats continue.
Yeah, Pastor Mike gets in. If he can get Pikula off double red, then that's huge, right?
Well, yeah, temporarily.
Sure.
Now, most of these blue-red decks are so capable of finding more mana in a hurry that it probably won't be for long. I mean, like in this spot, I think Pikula only has, he only has 5 basic islands in his deck. And then a Tectonic, 1 Edge and 1 Desolate Lighthouse, which is a little bit more.
So 7 non-red lands, every other land makes red.
Yeah, but even still, the real question is just, will Pikula find the other half of the combo? In this spot, Yu knows that Pikula doesn't have Splinter Twin now, because if he would have had it, he would have just won that game, or won that turn. So now the question is, does he have Kiki Jiki, or does he have neither?
Yeah, so Pikula on that turn, right, instead of making Splinter Twin, he made Spellskite. So now Spellskite, in addition to that Dispel, really turns off the Path to Exile in Yu's hand. But as we said before, Pikula's still missing half the combo right now, so...
The tough spot here is that Yu has Pikula on roughly a 7-turn clock.
Right, all right. He made the Sajiri step for a green mana, gave his creature pro-red. Spellskite actually doing a pretty good job as a wall here, though.
Yeah, as I said, until he gets the Knight of the Reliquary down, Yu doesn't really have any kind of an offense, and it's going to take the Knight several turns to become big enough to start taking over this game.
Yeah, so the white mana was used to make Noble Hierarch. The green was, now he's going to make Knight of the Reliquary. And yeah, still passes back Pikula, still at a healthy 16 life. And not enough lands in the graveyard yet. Knight of the Reliquary eats a Lightning Bolt, and that is lethal.
And that's the game.
And Splinter Twin drawn for Pikula. It's on Pestermite.
That just shows you how fast these games can quickly reach a conclusion.
Yeah, Justin, with the Spellskite to back it up, even if he had the mana for Path to Exile, it wouldn't be enough. And yeah, game 1 goes to Pikula.
And just like that, as soon as Pikula finds the Splinter Twin, we move on to game 2.
And that was really, I liked kind of what you said there. With the Tempo Twin deck, it's while he's waiting, he has a lot of proactive, or just reactive things that he can do. As we saw there, he got half the combo, and then he Lightning Bolted a couple things and remanded something, and then eventually he drew the second half.
So what does Pikula have coming in from the sideboard?
All right, well, from the sideboard, he has, well, it looks like, so because he's on Tempo Twin, he has access to cards like Anger of the Gods. He could even board in like Flame/Combust, Threads of Disloyalty. I don't know how much he shifts over to being an anti-aggro deck now that he sees his opponents on a bunch of 2-drops, but he certainly has the options to really become a control deck in the matchup.
Yeah, my guess is that he's going to start by taking out, probably taking out the Vendilion Clicks, possibly looking at cutting remand, maybe trimming some of the permission, because I think he's going to want as much removal as possible. He sees green-white, he sees basic plains and basic forest and Knight of the Reliquary. This is a pretty good sign that his opponent's going to have a lot of cards like Gaddock Teague, Kasali Pride Mage, the various forms of disruption like that, Spellskites. So most likely he's going to want to bring in Flame Slash, Anger of the Gods, possibly even Threads of Disloyalty, and possibly Combust. I think he wants to play a little bit of that controlling game.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of run you through his sideboard. For the viewers here, he actually has access to become a very strong, he has a lot of control cards in his board. He has access to cards like Engineered Explosives and actually Batter Skull out of the sideboard if he really wants to, just react.
Yeah, Batter Skull is quite good in terms of being a backup plan, but I don't think this is the matchup for it, just because green-white is going to have so many answers to it, and the combo is so good against green-white. The single biggest thing he needs to do is just make sure that he doesn't lose to the Hate Bears early on. Now, on Justin Yu's side, it looks like he's got access to a couple of chokes, which are real big. Pikula doesn't really have an answer to that.
Yeah, Pikula, Sulfur, Sulfur Falls fortunately aren't islands, but outside of that, choke could be really be really powerful against him. He doesn't have a way to search out Sulfur Falls.
Now, he does fortunately have a lot of non-island lands in the form of like 2 mountains, a stomping ground, a tectonic edge, a desolate lighthouse, but the choke will slow things way down. The only way he could get rid of it is an Echoing Truth or the one Echoing Truth, the one Engineering Explosives, neither of which it's certain that he'd even bring in this matchup.
Yeah, he has 2 cryptic commands in his deck.
Oh, okay,
he
sure.
could counter it on the way down. I would think once the choke's down, assembling blue, blue, blue could be pretty difficult.
Beyond choke, though, the primary thing is just spell skites. You know, access to 3 spell skites means that Justin will go all the way up to is that 4? No, just 3. Yeah, he'll be going up to 3 spell skites, meaning that Pikula is going to have to get through a layer of that before he can actually put out in the combo.
Yeah, when you're on Pikula's side, especially when you're playing a combo deck as well known as Twin, Spellskate's a card that all your opponents could theoretically have access to. How does that, like, when you're sideboarding, then how does that affect you? You know, he has cards like 2 Ancient Grudges in his board. Obviously, you don't want to bring in Grudge if all your opponent has a Spellskate for an artifact. But, you know, like, how do you adapt your strategy to the fact that everybody could Spellskate you?
That's why he's got things like Flame Slash. Flame Slash and, to a degree, Threads of Disloyalty. But Flame Slash and Threads of Disloyalty are cards that let you fight against Spellskite if they have it. But if they don't have it, you're still going to be able to do something very productive and good with.
So you board in Flame Slash in most matchups then?
Against creature decks.
Okay,
and he's got different
decks.
answers against, for some people you're going to want Ancient Grudge. Against some people you're going to want Flame Slash. Against some people you're going to want Echoing Truth. It's all about what type of thing are you, what kind of a deck are you facing, because you want an answer to Spellskite that's also good against those kind of decks. Now, he might not realize it, but Justin Yu also has access to 1 Linvala, which a lot of the same cards that beat Spellskite also beat Linvala, like Flame Slash.
Yeah.
But it is another card that could potentially disrupt his combo for some amount of the time.
Yeah, so with a Linvala in play, Chris actually, because Linvala has creatures can't activate abilities, Chris will have to remove the Linvala before he can combo.
Yeah, and only Chris's creatures wouldn't be able to activate abilities. Justin could still use a Spellskite if he wanted to protect his Linvala.
Sure, so I guess I would say Linvala plus Spellskite seems like a pretty good lock against the Tempo Twin deck.
It is. I mean, it's a lot that they have to get through first. You know, like a combination of Electrolyze plus Lightning Bolt or Cryptic Command or Flame Slash. There's a lot of ways you could potentially try to climb out of it. The nice thing about Linvala in particular is that she's so big, she kind of shuts down any backup plan. You can't get through with Pester Mites or Deceiver Exarchs anymore. Now, one backup plan that Pikula has that also disrupts, though, is the Splinter Twin backup plan. Sometimes you're going to end up in spots where the plan is to put Splinter Twin on a Snapcaster Mage just to get value every turn.
Right, to get value out of it.
And interestingly, Justin does not have any Scavenging Ooze. He's got an awful lot of 2-drops, ranging from Thalia to Squadron Hawk, Scrib Ranger, Kasali Pride Mage, Lotus Cobra, Gaddock Teague, Fauna Shaman, but not even a single Scavenging Ooze.
He has Scrib Ranger in the deck.
Yes.
But no Scavenging Ooze.
The nice thing about Scrib Ranger is obviously the interaction between Scrib Ranger and Knight of the Reliquary, or Scrib Ranger and Fauna Shaman, for letting him go off. You know?
Against aggro decks, you're talking about like so sometimes the Tempo Twin deck, you know, just starts bolting the other player, making Snapcaster Mages, hitting them with Pester Mites. Like, can you do that against other creature decks? I know that's something they use to bully control decks a lot of the time, you know, to force action out of, say, a blue-white-red deck. But against another creature deck, I almost feel like that would be harder to do.
Yeah, I mean, his plan, like Pikula's plan here, is not really the backup plan. I mean, he is going to try to combo off. He's just going to try to use some control elements to tear Justin down enough that he finds an opening, and has enough time to set his hand up.
Sure.
He knows that the combo is going to give him some free wins some percentage of the time, but he also knows that sideboarding is going to favor Justin as the amount of cards that he has that stop the combo is going to more than double.
All right, we see Chris Pikula going to 6 cards at the moment here. Remember, Justin is on the play. We are on game 2.
What do you think Justin is looking for in his opening hand here?
Well, so from the green-white side, I think, you know, I don't think he's really capable of just like getting a turn 5, like a racing hand. I feel like he wants to establish a hand with more answers as opposed to speed. So what I would try to look for cards like Gaddock Teague, like Linvala, like Spellskite. I would want some of my sideboard cards in the opening hand if I could.
Definitely. He definitely has some high impact sideboard cards.
Yeah, Choke. If I had a Choke in my opener, that'd be a really I'd really want that.
See, yeah, if he just has a game that leads with turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Choke, it's a very different texture. All right, looks like Chris Pikula going to 5.
Yeah. So with a card like Choke, there's a couple ways. You can either get it down as soon as possible, or you can try to wait till your opponent taps their mana for it.
In general, yeah, I think in general you want to just get it in whenever you can. If it's a different sort of story if they're playing Mana Leak or something like that, but these twin decks so rarely actually tap out on their main phase, and they have so many instants they could potentially be doing at the end step, and they don't even have that many ways to stop you from casting Choke. So you usually just want to get it down as fast as possible and make sure they have to play the whole game under it. It's not like you're going to trick them into spending all their mana, because if you let them spend all their mana, they're still getting they're still getting to do whatever they were going to do with it.
All right.
So in this, I mean, you know, it's just a shame that Pikula is not boarding in Blood Moon. I mean, it's unlikely that he would want Blood Moon in this matchup. I was talking to him just before this round started, and it sounded like he actually opened the Blood Moons he's playing with today. He actually opened them out of packs in the dark.
In the dark. I was going to say, you mean like in Antiquities.
Please. Yeah, but Pikula is not a man who would walk around playing a white-bordered Blood Moon.
All right, so Chris Pikula on 5. Kind of gave a shrug and a keep there. Not too excited.
Betting this is a turn 4 kill.
All right, it's 3 lands, a Pestermite, and a
Splinter Twin.
Splinter Twin. That's one of the advantages of Twin, is you actually can get hands like that on 5. You does have the turn 1 Noble Hierarch, and we may see that. I'm wondering if we could see a turn 2 Choke, as you were talking about. I don't know if he has that at the moment. Scalding Tarn from Pikula.
As a note, you does have 4 Voice of Resurgences, which are going to make it very difficult for Pikula to play a instant speed game.
Yeah, absolutely. In his hand, he does have a Voice. As you said, one's in his hand. He also has a Spell Skite in his hand. So he has a decent amount of disruption, it looks like, in his opener. You're right. Chris will have to main phase things. He'll have trouble removing creatures. He's going to lead on Spell Skite, preferring to get that down, presumably to protect
Voice from Lightning Bolt.
Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the interesting thing about leading with Spellskite here is that Pikula, like, you should realize Pikula doesn't have a Lightning Bolt already, or he probably would have killed the Noble Hierarch.
Right.
But that said, I mean, the Spellskite's the more important threat. Maybe he just wants to get it down under counter magic, as fast as possible.
Yeah, Spellskite certainly was. Yeah, it's the card I think that matters most in his hand right now. It'll stop those turn 4 kills that we were talking about. All right.
And it looks like Pikula actually does have the combo. Looks like he has Pestermite and Splinter Twin and the land to cast it, as predicted. All he needs to do is come up with an answer to Spellskite.
Well, he hasn't engineered explosives in his hand, so it looks like that's going to be possible, which would set him up for a turn 5 kill. And he's not playing the engineered explosives on 2 this turn, presumably because he wants to make sure he can play and sack it in the same turn.
Yeah, I mean, a green-white player is going to have so many ways that they could potentially destroy it, and there's no rush. He's not exactly under a huge amount of pressure.
His opponent has a 0-1 and a 0-4.
He's going to be able to go turn 3 Pestermite if he wants, turn 4 Explosives, blow it, turn 5 Splinter Twin.
All right, Voice of Resurgence cast for Justin Yu. It's another 2-drop, actually, so that just kind of adds value to the engineered explosives that Chris hasn't played yet.
So Pikula has a Snapcaster Mage, but he's deciding whether or not he wants to use it, because if he just throws it down there, it's not even going to soak up that much damage, and when he explosives, it'll go away.
Yeah, I think he wouldn't then.
But the key is that he doesn't have anything to snap back anyway, so...
Right, it's not doing much at the moment.
Right.
And yeah, Spellskite swings in as a 1-5 thanks to Noble Hierarch.
Classic 0-4 beats.
Yeah, Spellskite doesn't actually have Defender. You'd think it would, because it's a 0-4.
Oh no, with the number of swords that I've put on a Spellskite. No, these are some fine beats. These are the kind of beats Mom used to bring back when she used to bring them. 1-5 Spellskite.
All right, and fetch here off from Voice of Resurgence. Or he's looking at Voice of Resurgence. So he's going to fetch for a Plains.
It's interesting, the fetching up basics.
Yeah.
The life total isn't really a big issue. Is it just a function of Blood Moon? I mean, is he...
Yeah, I think he's suspecting Blood Moon. I mean, he certainly, it's a known card that Twin can play. And now we'll see Squadron Hawk cast. And this is the point where you only search up 2 Hawks.
Well,
and your opponent
no, Pikula's going to assume you has the other Hawk in his hand.
Right. They've always said if you only get 2.
Yeah, it's going to blow his mind when you just has another, it doesn't have another Hawk, it just has another good spell.
What about when he only finds 1 Squadron Hawk?
Wow, he's got to imagine that Yu's hand is 2 Hawks.
All Hawks.
Why else would somebody only search up 1 Hawk?
Was Yu's hand 2 Hawks, or did he board out a Hawk, or did he board down to 2 Hawks?
I guess once you play 3 Hawks in your main deck,
the
odds that you would board out exactly 1 Hawk go way up.
Yeah, I mean, it's each Hawk, every time you take out a Hawk, all the Hawks become worse. So they become more like a card you want to board out.
So this is interesting. He's playing the explosives now for 2 without the mana to blow it. He's got enough on the board at this point. Maybe it's because you had exactly 2 cards in his hand and didn't go get 2 Hawks, so he's thinking, oh, okay, I know who used hand.
Well, he has the... Yeah, you're right. Well, he has the mana up.
Is there... It costs 2 to activate? Does Pikula have 4 land in play?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it looks like Pikula has just Tectonic Edge, Sulfur Falls, and Steam Vents for mana at the moment.
Yeah, so he's less worried at this point. It's just, I think so my guess is that he's more concerned about his life total now. Like, Justin has played enough creatures.
Man, I don't know, though. When you have 2 Noble Hierarchs and a Spellskite, they do not add a lot to your swarm.
Yeah, a swing for 4 from Noble Hierarch will put Pikula down to 13 here, thanks to the double Exalted from the...
But the Squadron Hawk's even staying home, so it's not even like you've added anything.
And Choke, which Chris only has 1 island right now.
Very fortunately, Sulfur Falls, giving Pikula some respite.
So, hold on. If Chris, he can almost combo through this, right? He can, if he gets another land, he can play Pestermite, untap his Steam Vents, and still put Splinter Twin on it. If his next land is not an island.
Yeah. Now, he doesn't even have another land from the looks of it, but he does have that Explosives, which will buy him a lot of time. Yes, the issue, of course, is that by activating the Explosives, the Voice of Resurgence token would actually be so big that he would still be under some reasonable pressure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much time it actually buys him. We see here just a pass from Pikula, committing pretty much to the Engineered Explosives here. And we'll see some more spells from you. It's going to start. We'll see with a Vengevine.
And now Pikula is under a very real clock.
Yes. And just Vengevine swinging. That will be a double Exalted for 6. That will put Chris down to 7. Go ahead and crack Engineered Explosives. Yeah.
Now, part of the reason to crack the Explosives here now is that Pikula needs to be able to use the Deceiver, Exarch, or Pestermite on the Vengevine just to buy himself some time.
Right, and it looks like he hasn't found the land yet. He drew Peak for the turn. He's going to die next turn, and he probably will take a look at his opponent's hand before scooping. And it's that last Squadron Hawk, which Chris knew about.
And it looks like Pikula's going to have to pack it in.
Yeah.
So close, yet so far away.
Yeah, a pretty reasonable mull to 5. With a game plan, it needed a little help. The help didn't show up, and Justin Yu evens it up at 1 game apiece.
So now Pikula's got a little bit more idea of what he's up against.
Yeah, I mean, he knows his opponent has a choke. Does that really change how he can play around it? You know, he could try, now that he's on the play this game, he could try to V-click the choke away. He could board back in Remands if he boarded them out. Are these things that he actually wants to do, though?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing he's got to take into consideration that is he's against a maniac. Anybody who plays Squadron Hawk goes and gets 1 Squadron Hawk and then just doesn't have any more Squadron Hawks in his hand when he wasn't even close to discarding, that is a psycho. That is you have to give them incredible credit because their range is so wide.
They could be playing anything at this point. He choked you
out
of the...
He could be capable of anything. He could just jump across the table at any moment. I mean, part of Pikula's strategy here has to not just be what cards he brings in and out. It has to be what is he going to do if Justin just starts, going ballistic on him. Because this is like...
This is yeah. All right,
now, Justin, I think, is going to be just doing more of the same. It looks like he's switching between things. But, I mean, this matchup went exactly the way he was expecting. Pikula, on the other hand, it could just be the veteran trick of making it look like he's changing lots of cards, but it could also just be the fact that he didn't exactly see a lot of Justin's deck game one, and now he has an idea of just how, of the fact that Justin is going to be looking to choke him out and play spell skites.
Yeah, I mean, game one, all he really knew about Justin's deck is that it was some green and white creatures.
Yeah, you don't know how much Kasali Pride Mage, how much Gaddock Teeg, how much Thalia, how much Spellskate, how much Choke. I mean, there's a lot of things he could be. You also don't know, is he a Zoo deck that got mana screwed?
Yeah, he could, well,
he did have Lotus Cobra.
He had a Fauna Shaman and Lotus Cobra, so that's probably, it's like probably not a Zoo deck, but it could.
Yeah, it depends,
right.
It depends. It's, obviously, I mean, Fauna Shaman has already taken you kind of down a different path. I can only assume that Pikula has tested this format an incredible amount leading up to this, because my understanding is that he was 0-50 in his last 50 matches just before the tournament started. But both of these players are 1-0 now, so Pikula's lifetime Modern winnings have increased by at least one.
Yeah. I don't know if he had to play the first round. I think he's coming off a bye. I don't think he's actually won yet.
Yeah, it is possible. Actually, we might have to check with our spotter on the floor. Can anybody verify if Chris Pikula has ever won a game in his life of Modern?
Ever of Modern.
In F&M, on Magic Online, has Chris Pikula ever won a single game of Modern? Twitter might know. If you know, tweet out at us at SCG Live. Let us know if you can verify whether or not Pikula has ever won a game of Modern. Even just a game, not even a match.
Well, he got game one.
Before today.
Okay, before today. So
yes.
We already set a record in winning game one.
It's possible.
And now we're going for a match.
It's possible. We don't know. You can't really tell with somebody like Pikula.
To be fair, I don't know if he's played much Modern at all, right?
I know he's played a lot leading up into this tournament, and over the past couple of years, he's been playing every format that's whatever the current format is quite a bit. I mean, he likes to, he takes the humble approach a little bit, but that he finds the time to play Magic whenever he can, and I know that Modern in particular is a format that maybe he hasn't played as much as Standard or Draft, but he's in a little bit better of a position to learn the format than most, because he actually played when the cards were, so many of the old cards that a lot of people aren't familiar with.
Yeah,
he was a long-time veteran by the time they were printed,
Yeah, and that does help. So, because you get familiarity with these archetypes, like this green-white Hate Bears deck, somewhat resembles a Naya deck from back when these cards were new.
Well, and Pikula has actually played a fair bit of Legacy. And
yes.
People play these Maverick style of green-white decks in Legacy quite a bit. And so even if he's never faced the Modern version, he can extrapolate what he's learned from Legacy to here. All right, this time I think basically all Pikula is really looking for is a 7-card keeper, because it does not take much for him to win,
Yeah, well, we saw that even on 5 cards. He was very close to being able to just win on the spot there.
And even though Choke only locked down 1 land, it looked like it was game-winning that game, because if Pikula would have had that 1 extra mana, he would have been able to buy himself several extra turns.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Choke was just a stone ring, but that was good enough.
Definitely. Although it's interesting, if Pikula had just played the Engineered Explosives on 2 instead of waiting till 3, he could have responded to the Choke with a Pestermite untapping the Steam Vents land.
Right,
and had a little bit more
mana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would have given him the out of drawing a land.
Well, and he had cards in his hand, like Pestermite, like Peak, like Remand, and, so, I don't know. I think this game he would be a little bit more proactive compared to last game. I think the Vengevine, you got to know Vengevine because of the Fauna Shaman, but I think the Vengevine kind of changed his perspective a little bit on just how, once you see Squadron Hawk, you see Justin is very dedicated to this plan.
Right, and Chris keeping both players on 7. We are underway. Justin thinking a bit on his mulligan, but ending up going with it. And so turn 1, Tarn off Pikula. I'll see if Justin has the mana, the Accelerant again.
Yeah, it's interesting. Justin's deck is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 20, a full 22 drops with just 4 1-drops.
It looks like Justin's a little short on lands. In his hand, we see Path to Exile, Voice of Resurgence, Vengevine, and Spellskite. And Chris not really doing anything either right now. Second land they're drawn for Justin.
Wow, Justin likes to live dangerously.
Like you said, he's a maniac, right? You don't know what it.
Definitely.
It looks like, I think he kept a 2-lander. I think he has a 3rd land in his hand.
Okay, well, in that case, I mean, 2-land he can cast the majority of his deck
something.
anyway.
But I'm not positive it was 2. It could have been 1. We don't know what the back card is.
God, I hope Justin did the classic crack in response crack. Be like, come on, Pikula, you don't have a shadow of doubt. Justin continuing to play around Blood Moon at all angles, at all turns.
Well, it's kind of free for him to play around it, right?
Yeah, the mana requirements to his deck are not great.
So he gets a green and a white, and that'll be Voice of Resurgence. And let's take a look over at Chris's hand. It looks like he has 3 more lands, a Lightning Bolt, a Deceiver Exarch, and at least 1 other card. Something blue.
So my guess is that Pikula here goes ahead and searches up. The question is, does he use the Misty Rainforest or the Skull? Does he use one of the 2 of them to find a non-blue land specifically in order to dodge choke?
Right.
My
so
guess is he does.
Basic mountain.
Yeah, like why not? Like he's got Sulfur Falls in his hand, so he has access to 2 blue anyway. The only thing he would need a 3rd blue for is Cryptic Command, but being able to play around choke is such an advantage.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and.
It's interesting.
Looks like he's going to do that. I think he's getting 2 non-islands.
I love it.
Stomping Ground and Mountain.
This is a man who is willing to respect the chokes. Because he doesn't even need the double blue for anything besides Snapcaster Mage, you know.
He has to hope that he doesn't draw a Cryptic. But we're not positive those are still in. And Snapcaster Mage was the draw for the turn. Right now with Sulfur Falls, he is non-chokeable at the moment. And a main phase Lightning Bolt will take care of Voice of Resurgence. Downsizing it to a 1/1 token. And that will be it for the turn for Pikula.
The nice thing about these Voice of Resurgence this year is obviously the fact that while Pikula is playing this backup game of trying to slow down the creatures, Voice of Resurgence is very resilient against that.
Yeah, Voice of Resurgence is very difficult for, I think, Chris's deck. You know, he has to double removal spell it, more or less. He may get an opportunity this turn to trade Snapcaster Mage for the token.
Most likely he'll just wait because he's going to want to Snapcaster that bolt.
Let's see here. Yeah,
he's got to deal with the Spellskite first, of course, but...
Yep, and he takes 2 off the swing there. So puts Pikula down to 16. And he drew another island this turn, so he still doesn't have the red half of the combo.
Yeah, he does have Deceiver Exarch, but he now also has to find an answer to Spellskite.
He'll just continue. He'll pass the turn. Not under too much pressure here. The Voice of Resurgence token will progressively deal more and more. And Justin, he may just go for, I think, a Vengevine here just to up the clock.
It doesn't look like he has the untapped mana.
All right, so it's Treetop Village. Yeah, it looks like almost a pair of the Path to Exiles as well. So plenty of disruption in Justin's hand.
I mean, this is exactly what Justin wants, is a modest clock with a lot of disruption.
Exactly.
You know, he's not short on pressure in his deck, so drawing the disruption part of it is what he's really hoping for.
And here's Squadron Hawk again.
How many Hawks will he get this time?
Oh, there's one. Just stops looking. Yeah, there's not another one there. He boarded down to 2 Hawks. That's what happened.
Interesting.
I mean, I think that's better than boarding down to 1, to be fair.
Yeah. I wonder at what point you go down to 0, though.
You mean like once you go down to 2, you go to 0?
I mean,
I don't know. Clearly not.
I mean, now, as Walking the Plains Nathan Holt can attest, Stormcrow is clearly overpowered. And if Stormcrow is overpowered, even if you only have 1 Hawk, that's close. That's most of a Stormcrow.
Yeah. All right, we at end step, Deceiver Exarch from Pikula attempts to tap a land. Instead, it taps Spellskite, and Justin on end step will go ahead and Path to Exile that Exarch. Justin tapped out for the turn, but he was trying to tap the token, but he got Spellskite.
So Pikula doesn't actually have a lot going on. I mean, he doesn't have any part of the combo. He doesn't have an answer to Spellskite. Well, he does have
there's
the Splinter Twin now.
There's Splinter Twin.
Now that he has given up any hope of Deceiver Exarch.
Yeah, well, there's still the Spellskite in play that he has
Yeah.
to deal with. And it looks like he has a pair of Snapcasters.
And it's tough because Snapcaster Mage, not the greatest in the twin decks, particularly when you I mean, you've got all these creatures, you've got enchantments, and you even have a bunch of cards that are just not very effective to snap back. I mean, Bolt in particular is embarrassing versus Spellskite.
Yeah, that's why you see twin decks play cards like Flame Slash, just specifically so you can hit Spellskites.
Definitely.
Fifth land is Tech Edge for Justin Yu. Pikula with a Tech Edge of his own. Neither player has opted to use the Tech Edge yet.
So are we going to see a Vengevine come to the party?
Wouldn't be surprised. It's among the options in Justin's hand. He's drawn a choke. He's going to go ahead and choke. As we said, Chris has played around that more or less.
Definitely. I mean, the choke is still going to limit Pikula's options a little bit, but it's not as bad as it could be.
And Fauna Shaman from Justin Yu. So I don't think Justin, I originally had said I thought he had 2 paths. I believe that second path was the Squadron Hawk. So I don't think he has any more paths. Now it's just aggro. But a swing for 5 will put Chris on a 2-turn clock here.
Now, Pikula, what he's really looking for is Anger of the Gods. If he can get Anger of the Gods, he can sweep Justin's entire board. It'd kill everything except the Spellskite, but the Snapcaster and the Lightning Bolt could finish the job.
All right, top of the deck, he has a Serum Visions and a Pestermite. Does he want either of those? He has the Splinter Twin, but once again, Spellskite is getting in the way of that plan. And I imagine this turn, he has to be slightly concerned with Fauna Shaman. Otherwise, Fauna Shaman will just continue to get more Spellskites, or could get... I don't know if it will... So Spellskites and Gaddock take care of the Splinter Twin plan. I don't know if Justin has a creature he can tutor up that takes care of Kiki Jiki.
Yeah, I mean, the real issue is definitely Anger of the Gods at this point, you know?
Right. Anger's the draw Chris is looking for sure.
Now, the key, though, is that you can just play a Vengevine and win the game immediately. Because if Pikula is just going to interact with spells, Spellskite interacts with that. Pikula is going to then try to use Snapcaster Mage in order to chump and just live one more turn. But if he doesn't draw Anger of the Gods, he's got nothing else he can do.
All right, and absolutely, there goes Vengevine for the turn. This is a lethal swing here. Fauna Shaman, no activations, it's getting in. So the swing will be 5/5, 4/3, 1/1, and 2/2.
Now, Pikula is going to be able to Snapcaster the Bolt.
Yep, he's going to go ahead and do that. He will lose one of his islands in doing this.
He's going to have to chump the token, the elemental token, and then drop to 1.
Exactly, so Snapcaster blocks the token. Now, if you're him, you do try to hit the Vengevine here, right? Maybe there's no reason. He goes ahead and goes to 1. The Bolt still has flashback. And just actually opts not to use the Bolt.
Yeah, because then he has the option to do it later. He doesn't care about the damage.
Yeah, it would have been all the Bolt would have accomplished would have been 2 damage to Justin. And a draw of Snapcaster Mage, that's not going to do it for Pikula.
He still has a cantrip left, right?
I believe so.
Because at the very least, he can Snapcaster, get the Serum Visions, and hope to draw the Anger of Gods.
Yep, he's going to have to draw Anger of the Gods right here with the first card. It is Engineered Explosives.
Oh, there's the Anger of the Gods.
Anger on
putting
top,
it on
Splinter
top.
Twin on bottom.
Just like, if there's somehow I live through this, the look on his face, he knows it's like just 1 card away.
Well, there's 2 attackers, so there's 3 mana costs worth of attackers. There's 2s, there's 4s, and 0s. I don't think he has a way to do it.
So close, 1 card away.
Yeah, 1 card. It was the next card down.
So is the life of the twin player.
So Justin Yu, 2 games to 1, defeats Chris Pikula.